Ankush, maybe you can share how it made sense to you from a organizational context. You just alluded to it, no?
Yeah. So it might help to give a little bit of a background. So for me, I think around the time that I began looking at some of this work, I was actually, at a point in my career, midpoint in my career, about 35, 37-ish period, where I felt I had all those specifications that you would normally get, saying that, if you do this, if you check this particular box, you're okay, you've done well. And I seem to have checked most of those boxes. But I generally just felt a little bit of almost an emptiness of some sort of disillusionment of some sort. And it's around the time when I actually started to see how it affects me, how it starts to affect people around me, is when I realized I need to really see more. There's something there that is not seen or understood. That's the time when SaptaSvara happened. I won't go into more of how it happened, but it happened and I was there. It was one of the first programs that I worked with. Like I was saying earlier, it gave me a certain lens to see what was happening to me then. So in a sense, all these ideas of Maitri. So can I actually be first a friend to myself? Maitri as a idea. Usually one would think of the other and then say Maitri, but could I first be just a mitra to myself? That was a huge threshold for me. And then from there started this whole exploration of saying, where are my actions coming from? What are these voices that dominate my responses to these external triggers? And like I was saying earlier, one thing led to another. There were several references found. So some of these ideas of SaptaSvara are actually found in Upanishads and Yoga Sutra. And I had no clue what an Upanishad was. Absolutely. I studied 7 years of age, but I had no idea what an Upanishad was. And it was also, it's at one level a little embarrassing because I think in one sense, that's one inheritance that, which is not tangible. I mean, it's of course there in some number of pages, but it's so much intangible that's available for me to claim that I had never accessed. And that's what led me on almost like an exploration for the next 3 or 4 years. I just immersed myself in the study of Upanishads, the study of yoga. That was around the time some of these studies were actually concluding is when COVID hit, and I almost also around the same time got back to work. And I said, now is where this gets tested, right? So now when I go back to my workspaces and systems, how do I operate Maitri? In conversations with my peers, conversations with my bosses, with my clients. I've been an M&A, mergers and acquisition negotiator, and I used to think of myself as a modern Kshatriya who's acquiring companies. And I would think, when I think of them, usually it would be some sort of antagonizing from day one, from moment one. I'm actually just seeing them as adversaries. And what would that do to me? So a lot of that changed, and people around me would find it very strange. And I took a while to adjust to it too, and it's still adjusting. And that became like a very interesting. So one of the things that I looked at, Raghu, from an M&A standpoint, is that a lot of mergers and acquisitions in India and a lot of it in UK actually statistically failed. And the reason attributed was not to do with product fitment or or strategic fitment or synergies not met, etc. It was more to do with people not being able to really align together. And that became one of my areas of almost like an area of pursuit to say, can I really look at this? Can I look at when two companies come together? Can it actually be two organizations, two set of people as a collective coming together? And how do they really look at this whole systemic phenomenon that is at play? So the SaptaSvara, in a sense, also opened that vista for me. The idea of jnana was again very, very interesting because did my knowledge transform me as an individual was another question that I was left with in one of our conversations about jnana when we were writing that particular chapter. And of course, towards the end, as we looked at abhyasa, it's to how we bring all of these ideas together, and this whole idea of abhyasa and vairagya that came together for me in that, in that section as we looked at it deeply. So there's a lot of relevance and a lot of resonance that I see for people in their own work, in their own spaces as well, and also in their engagements in systemic spaces where SaptaSvara can kind of shed light.